Hi there and welcome to episode 116, where I'm going to talk about how our day-to-day habits and behaviors have a specific doshic characteristic that will impact the doshas of Vata, Pitta and Kapha, and as a result have an impact on our health, our immunity and our longevity. I also have a free daily habits challenge for you, so please stay tuned. Hello and welcome to Elements of Ayurveda, Empowering Wisdom of Life. I'm your host, Colette, and in this podcast, I hope to empower you to take charge of your own health by sharing the holistic teachings of Ayurveda, the ancient healing tradition from India. We will also discuss topics like health and wellness, nutrition, yoga, fitness, meditation, breath work, and much more, as well as interviewing lots of inspiring people along the way. My humble wish is to help you to connect to your true nature, to Mother Nature, and to each other. If you like the content, be sure to subscribe to the show, and the new episodes will automatically download for you to enjoy. If you're new to Ayurveda, I recommend you listen to the first couple of episodes where I do an introduction to Ayurveda and the mind-body types. I've also set up a Facebook group for us to connect and to support each other, and I'd love for you to join me over at Elements of Ayurveda podcast group. And now, here's the show. Hey there, thanks a million for tuning in, and I hope you are well wherever you are in the world. Now, today I am going to do a continuation on from my previous episode, which was episode number 115, where I spoke about Swasthyavrita, which is the science of Ayurvedic prevention. The goal of Swasthyavrita, which I went into in detail in the previous episode, is to establish ourselves in our unique mind-body type, bringing our body and mind into balance and to live in accordance with nature, the circadian rhythms, and with our true nature so that we can maintain balance and enjoy good health and prevent physical or mental dis-ease in the body. Then I spoke about how with this great foundation of good health and balance, we can go on to the journey of progressing through the 4 goals of life, which I also discussed in detail in episode number 115. And the 4 goals are Kama, which is activities or pleasure, Artha, which is money or prosperity, Dharma, which is purpose or service, and Moksha, which is liberation or non-attachment. Now, Ayurveda tells us that health is the root of everything. And we understand that, right? Health is our wealth. And it is the foundation necessary to progress on these 4 goals of life. And this is what I want to delve into today. How do we maintain balance physically and mentally in order to have a stable foundation that will prevent disease in the body and mind, provide support, and increase awareness as we progress on this journey? We tend to focus a lot on our food. And of course, it's really important. Food can be medicine, or it can create an aggravation, the doshas, which can result in disease. So there needs to be this focus on food, but we also tend to forget about everything else that can cause imbalances in our body. And this is what I want to look at today. I want to look at our day-to-day habits and behavior. And this is so important because how we're living day in, day out is going to have a big impact on our health. Of course it is, because what we're doing each day accumulates over time. Now stay tuned, please, till the end of the show where I'm going to give you a daily habits challenge. And this is going to come up in February, and we're going to support each other and hold each other accountable on trying to implement one of the most important daily habits. So I'm going to discuss that in a little bit. But before we go there, I want to look at how does our day-to-day behavior affect our health and well-being. Well, it's because what we do each day has a particular doshic characteristic. What time we go to bed, what time we wake up, what time we eat, what we eat, how we eat, if we exercise, what our work environment is like, what our home environment is like, our relationships, our daily activities, what comes into our senses during the day, what time we go to bed. All these daily habits have an effect on the doshas of Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. And they can either maintain balance, which is great, or they can aggravate a dosha or more than one dosha. These daily habits impact our health, our immunity, and our longevity. So let me break it down a little further. How do our actions each day affect Vata, Pitta, and Kapha? Well, I'm going to take a scenario here and show you how some behaviors can really affect the doshas. So we're looking at what time we go to bed, and we understand with the circadian rhythms that the Kapha energy rises in the environment between 6 and 10 p.m. Before I go any further, if you don't understand or know what I'm talking about when I mention the circadian rhythms, I would recommend that you go back to episode number 8, where I talk in detail about these daily energy cycles of Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. So before you go on, I'd recommend maybe checking that episode out, number 8. I talk in detail about this 24-hour clock. Okay, so Kapha energy rises in the environment between 6 and 10 p.m. And this Kapha energy rises, it brings the qualities of heaviness, slowness. And this helps our body and mind to slow down and prepares us for bed, ideally before or at 10 p.m. Now, the problem arises here. If we ignore these natural signals of our body wanting to calm down and to slow down a little bit, and we energize ourselves, and it can be easier to do that nowadays, right? Because we have electricity. So we're not in darkness. We're not getting those cues from the light to kind of slow down. We have so much to energize us. Stimulants like food and drink and the bright lights and loud noises and exercise and technology. All this influx on our senses really confuses our Vata dosha, and our Vata becomes stimulated via all this activity with our senses, and it activates the nervous system. And so now, because we've stimulated ourselves, be it with eating late or being at the gym with the loud music and exercising late, even though we thought this was healthy for us, or maybe we're online shopping, or we're scrolling social media, or we're watching some movie or the news that's really activating our nervous system, now we're just too wired up to settle down to go to sleep. So we're not tired, so we end up staying up late. And what happens then at 10 p.m., the reason it's important to be in bed by that time is at 10 p.m., the Kapha energy subsides. So we're losing that feeling of heaviness, and the Pitta energy rises. And Pitta energy is fire, and it's activating, and it's intense. And this energy now rises in the environment. And we know, as is the macrocosm, so is the microcosm. So this Pitta energy rises in the environment and therefore increases the Pitta energy in our body. So this Pitta energy is coming in to do our internal house cleaning. We're supposed to be in bed and asleep. So the Pitta energy comes in and can digest the food and the thoughts and anything that happened in our day. It can detox our body and rejuvenate and restore us for the next day. But we've missed those cues from Kapha between 6 and 10 p.m. We stimulated our body, our mind, our nervous system. We can't settle down. We're up and active. And now we're awake at 10 p.m. when Pitta comes in and we get this second wind. So now maybe we were laying down on the couch watching a movie at 8 p.m., but we get this second wind at 10 p.m. and we get the munchies. We get a little bit hungry because Pitta is also the fire of digestion. So now we're going to get hungry. We want a snack. And now poor Pitta has to divide the energy between digesting this food that's coming in and giving us energy just to be up and active at this time, and also try to do the house cleaning. So poor Pitta has to do the internal house cleaning as best it can while trying to give you some energy because you're up and active and eating snacks and digesting at this time. So Pitta's like, give me a break. I can't do all the housework if, I have to energize and stimulate you as well. So this might go on past 10, maybe it's going towards 12 a.m. and eventually you're like, I have to work tomorrow. I have to get to bed. So you're laying in bed and you can't sleep as your mind is racing because you stimulated your nervous system. And as a result, now Vata is stimulated by the fact that you were watching TV or you're on technology or you just worked out late. So Vata is like still buzzing. Plus, you're still feeling that second wind energy from Pitta. So you're not feeling like you can fall asleep easily. So you finally get to sleep into the early hours of the morning perhaps, but you end up tossing and turning and it doesn't feel like you got into a deep sleep. And perhaps you're waking up between 2 and 6 a.m. and you're really getting frustrated because you should be tired. It's so late and you haven't got enough sleep and now you're worrying about all you have to do the next day. And the reason now you're tossing and turning between 2 and 6 a.m. is because the Pitta energy has subsided and the Vata energy rises at this time. And because you stimulated that Vata energy before you went to bed by being on technology or just being up and active, now when the Vata energy rises between 2 and 6 a.m., and brings with it this mobile, active energy, your body and mind is really sensitive to this energy because the Vata is already activated in your body and your mind may start to race and you're continue tossing and turning. You can't stop your mind because your body is just activated with this Vata and you're going off in thoughts and mind spinning and maybe getting anxious because you can't sleep. So this continues through the early hours of the morning. And then your alarm goes off and you hit the snooze button several times because you're just exhausted. And finally, you have to get up at 8 a.m. and do a mad dash to get out the door to work. And now you're feeling groggy and heavy and sluggish because you ate late. So your body didn't get that time before you went to sleep to digest. Ideally, we want 3 hours to digest our food before we go to bed. And so that late night snack has created this heavy, sluggish feeling in the morning. Now at 6 to 10 a.m., the Vata energy subsides and the Kapha energy rises again. And again, this Kapha energy is bringing this heavy, grounding energy. And the reason this is coming in as this time is to provide us with a solid foundation to do physical work and exercise. But the problem here is you hit your snooze button and you slept until 8 a.m. So now Kapha had 2 hours to take hold of your body and go, oh, we don't want to get out of bed. I've got this heavy quality now that's taken hold. I just want to roll over. But you had to drag yourself out of bed. And now that heavy quality is something you can't shake because you slept until that Kapha time. So now instead of being up and active and using that Kapha energy for what it's for a foundation to benefit you to do physical work and exercise, you slept in. So you created more Kapha in your body. So now you're dragging yourself to work and you're really feeling exhausted. Maybe you have a foggy mind. And we've all experienced this when we've slept in on a weekend and we feel like we're just dragging all day. We feel like we can't focus. So poor you. You're now feeling slow, foggy-minded, and so you're not productive at work. You're unfocused and you're tired. And it goes on because you're so tired. You're drinking lots of caffeine just to get through the day. And then this wires up your Vata again. And you didn't have time to prepare your healthy lunch. So now you're buying something processed just to keep you going. And that's going to have lots of sugar and salt in it, which can result in inflammation in your body. And then you're going to have a mid-afternoon crash because of that sugar, maybe in that processed foods, or maybe you had to take on some sugar just to keep you going. And your brain is shutting down this mid-afternoon sugar crash. And now you want more caffeine just to get you through your day. And all these poor food choices and processed foods is aggravating your Pitta and it's wiring up the Vata. And all this because you didn't have a nighttime habit to calm your nervous system and your Vata so that you can get to sleep at a reasonable hour, which Ayurveda suggests is 10 p.m. And we understand now this is important because that Pitta rises in the atmosphere at 10 p.m. and can give us that feeling of a second wind. So we need to make sure that we're winding down in the evening and that we're not, on Netflix late at night going just one more episode, because, oh my goodness, you can't tell me that last episode of the Netflix series you were watching is that good to cause all this fallout the next day. And maybe it's not even just the next day you're feeling this. Maybe this is an ongoing cycle because, of course, now that, you've had to take caffeine late in the day and you had to take sugar on just to avoid that sugar crash mid-afternoon. And now you get home and, you're too tired to cook. So maybe you order in some food that's not the best food for your constitution. And now you're maybe feeling some indigestion and you can't get to sleep, and it goes on and on and on. So maybe that sounds familiar. But don't worry. Ayurveda has the answer. And I had that habit challenge coming up, which I'll tell you all about in a moment. But Ayurveda does give us guidelines on these behaviors that will help us to maintain the balance of the doshas and prevent the disease. And these daily self-care practices are called dinacharya. And I discussed those in detail in episode number 16 called Ayurvedic Dinacharya, or Daily Habits. And these daily habits are in tune with the circadian rhythms, the cycles of Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, meaning that they do not aggravate the doshas. We have an understanding when we work in tune with these cycles that we're using these doshas to our benefit rather than going against them and suffering. We have to remember the Ayurvedic principle here of like increases like and opposites pacify. Therefore, if we were to perform a Pitta stimulating activity in the middle of the day, when Pitta is high from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., well, then this would stimulate the Pitta dosha. For example, say it's the middle of summer, that's Pitta season, so Pitta is high in the environment, and you decide to go for a run in the middle of the day, in the heat of the day, that's certainly going to aggravate Pitta. And if you're a high Pitta constitution or you have a Pitta aggravation anyway, it's going to increase Pitta even more. Then that's an example of where like increases like. So the best option in that scenario would be to calm Pitta at that time of the day, to not to do an intense activity, but rather slow things down a little bit when that Pitta energy is high and you're in the middle of a summer and it's hot anyway. It's not the time to go for an intense run. So these dinacharya are aligned with the energies of the day and designed to be in tune with the Vata, Pitta, Kapha cycles, so we can keep the doshas in balance and prevent disease. Now, these self-care practices or habits are essential for everybody to maintain balance, but in particular for those with a high Vata constitution or Vata aggravation. And don't forget that most of us are Vata aggravated in today's world, given our high-tech, on-demand, highly stimulating lifestyles. Vata loves spontaneity and shuns habits. However, habit and structure is the most important strategy to pacify an aggravated Vata dosha and to calm the nervous system so that we can think clearly, we can digest efficiently, and we can sleep well. So remember also that Vata is considered the leader of the doshas, as it's responsible for all movement in the body. So Pitta and Kapha rely on a balanced Vata dosha to move the other doshas around the body. So if Vata is aggravated, Pitta and Kapha are affected also. So you can see why Ayurveda really emphasizes dinacharya. So let's take a look at these dinacharya. Again, as I mentioned, I talked about them in detail in episode number 16, but I'm just going to review them here. And as I'm reviewing them, remember that these are guidelines. There's no one size fits all, and that these can be adjusted to your lifestyle. It's not about perfection. It's about working with where you are, with your lifestyle, and with your daily structure. But I'm just going to read the guidelines from Ayurveda, and then I'll talk a little bit more about that and individualizing them to you in a moment. So morning habits, according to Ayurveda, ideally waking up 30 to 60 minutes before sunrise, eliminating, cleaning your face, your eyes, your nose, your mouth, tongue scraping and brushing your teeth, drinking room temperature water, or lemon water to hydrate and promote a bowel movement if you haven't already had a bowel movement earlier. Meditating, pranayama, mindfulness techniques are really great at this time. Physical exercise for your constitution. So this is the time between 6 and 10 a.m. where that Kapha energy is providing that great solid foundation that you can exercise without aggravating your other doshas. Doing an Abhyanga oil massage at this time is great, showering and bathing, and then applying oil to the nose, the ears, the top of the head, and then eating a breakfast that's ideal for your constitution. So that's Ayurvedic guidelines on morning habits. And then the daily schedule, in accordance with the circadian rhythms, would be to do your focused intellectual work in the early part of the day between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m., eating lunch in the middle of the day, that's ideal for your constitution, and doing creative or less focused work in the afternoon, so less intellectual work from 2 to 5 p.m. And then avoiding stress in the afternoon because that Vata energy is rising between 2 and 6 p.m. You really need to avoid any stress that's going to aggravate that Vata dosha even further. And then the evening habits, according to Ayurveda, eating a light dinner before 7 p.m., something like a soup, again, that's ideal for your constitution, relaxing after dinner and avoiding too much stimulation, which I talked about earlier, and then sleeping by 10. Now, as I said, these are guidelines. And I want you to understand that there's no one size fits all. And I really believe in an 80-20 lifestyle. Now, perhaps you have young children and they get up really early, or you have an early start for work, or you work shifts. So you cannot carry out all those habits in the morning. And this is where I help my clients build a strategy that fits into their life so that their self-care practices fit into their day rather than causing stress. For example, maybe you're a busy mom or dad who has a young child, and there's no way that I would ask a parent of a young child to set a structure for their morning because maybe that child wakes up really early. So perhaps they can maybe set intentions for the day when they wake up. But I would not recommend that they structure activities in the morning, because then if their children wake up really early, then it's just going to create frustration. So I would then shift those practices to the evening time, so that they have some me time when the children are in bed. And I think that's really important for parents, especially of young children, that they have that self-care time and take that time when the children are in bed. They know they're not going to be interrupted, so there'll be no frustration, and that they can really do those self-care practices then. So this is just a sample of how I adjust these routines and daily self-care practices and habits to my clients. It's about progress. It's not about having it perfect, right? I meet people where they are and we adjust these habits accordingly. These habits should be a foundation, ideally for 80% of your life, and then something to return to when you go out of your daily routine. You go off on that 20%. Maybe it's a vacation. Maybe it's the holiday season. Maybe it's just a late night or overtime at work, and maybe you just, for some reason, your child is sick and you just go out of routine. But you want to get it to the point where these daily habits are something that you return to. And that's key. You can go off them for a short period of time, but it's really important that you return to them. And this is what I help people with in my Daily Habits for Holistic Health course. And I have a group discounted one starting February 21st. It's a self-paced online course that you can take anytime throughout the year. However, for this group discounted course, I will be supporting the group for this month. It's a 28-day course, and supporting you and holding you accountable. We'll go through it together. And in this course, we start out by understanding the daily energy cycles and how to structure your day with these energies, again, rather than going against them and suffering. And I educate you on the habit formation loop and how to set up reminders and triggers to ensure habit success. So we start the course with that, implementing these daily habits, and continue them for the 28 days. So that by the end of the program, they're on autopilot. And there's something you keep constantly in your life as that backdrop, that foundation to maintain balance. Then after that first week of focusing on those daily habits, we move into understanding the mind and the different mental qualities of the mind. And we talk in detail about sattva, rajas, and tamas, and understanding how these qualities affect each dosha and how to recognize signs of aggravation in your own mind and how to maintain balance. And here we sample a lot of different mindfulness techniques like meditation, breath practices, affirmations, and visualizations, and ones that are designed for each dosha type. And then we move on to the foundations of Ayurvedic healing, and I educate you on how to become your own healer and understanding those principles of opposites and how to recognize them in your day-to-day life and how to apply this principle in your day-to-day life in order to heal your body and mind, so that I'm empowering you to take charge of your own health. And then finally, we zoom out a little bit more and we look at how to develop your intuition and how the power of positivity and compassion impacts your health and well-being, and how to take these practices beyond the self and making sure that we don't get stuck working on ourselves and being egocentric, but rather looking around in your home, in your work, and in your community, and how to bring the sattvic vibe into your whole life and create that ripple effect out so that everything in your life and around you becomes better and helps you progress on this path through the 4 goals of life. Now, with this course, like I said, it's online. You get access to a private course page on my website. There's daily coaching webinars, short webinars, just bite-sized bits of information each day for the 28 days. There's worksheets, there's online support from me, and we also have a supportive Facebook community. I'm going to put the link to that in the show notes. That's the Daily Habits for a Holistic Health online course. Starting February 21st is the group discounted course, or you can take it throughout the year by yourself. And that link is in the show notes, or you can go to my website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com, go to the events if you want to do the group course, or you can just go to programs, you can find the private one. So that's there if you want support and if you want more education and if you want to become more empowered on taking charge of your own health. That's a good course to help you do that. But I want to go back to these daily habits and these self-care practices and talk about the benefits of them. Well, it provides us, like I said, with a balanced foundation for your day and your well-being. It helps you establish yourself in your constitution and keeps your doshas in balance, preventing disease, particularly like we talked about with the Vata dosha. These daily self-care practices will keep the Vata dosha pacified and grounded. And we know that Vata now is the leader among the doshas and affects the movements of Pitta and Kapha. So it really helps to keep all the doshas in balance. It maintains the regularity of our body clock. It aids digestion. These habits will aid absorption and assimilation. They will aid elimination and create regularity there. And it also prevents decision fatigue. How much energy do we waste each day making decisions? And if you're Vata aggravated, indecisiveness comes with that aggravation, and it can really create overwhelm. And having these daily self-care habits in place means you can flow through your day knowing that you have this structure, this foundation, and your self-care is taken care of, and you're saving decisive energy for work or other obstacles coming up in your day, rather than, what should you eat? What time should you eat? And all these little decisions that you're wasting energy on every day. And these daily habits really promote discipline, clarity, confidence, longevity, and happiness with a dinacharya practice in place that works in alignment with your lifestyle. You will establish an environment of holistic healing in your body and mind, and raise your consciousness so that you can progress on to the 4 goals of life. So I mentioned earlier I have a challenge for you. And please join me on this challenge. It's a free challenge. It's going to take place starting Monday, February 3rd and run through till Sunday, February 9th. And the challenge is early to bed challenge. So I'm going to support you and provide accountability in improving your sleeping habits. And I went into detail talking about sleep and your dosha in episode number 74. And I spoke about how sleep is a critical part of your health and well-being and affects every aspect of your life, as we saw earlier with that scenario starting with a late night. Unfortunately, in today's world where we glamorize being busy and productive, sleep is oftentimes seen as something of an inconvenience. But in this episode number 74, Sleep in Your Dosha, I cover the importance of sleep for our health and well-being. I talk about how much sleep each age group requires. I talk about the signs of sleep deprivation. I talk about circadian rhythms in sleep, the sleep tendencies of each dosha. I also give an evening routine to help promote sleep and tips for a good night rest. So that episode is there, number 74. But back to the sleep challenge. The challenge is to go to bed before 10 p.m. Lights out at 10 p.m., if not before. So please join me over in the Elements of Ayurveda podcast Facebook group from Monday, February 3rd to Sunday, February 9th, so we can support each other and hold each other accountable. And if you're not on Facebook, I'll also be posting about it on Instagram as well. And if you're not on social media, good for you. But just make sure you're signed up for my newsletter for all the details on the challenge. And I'll put the link to my newsletter in the show notes, or just go to my website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com, and go to the contact page there. Okay, to help you prepare for the sleep challenge, because it's not starting until Monday, February 3rd, please download my top 10 tips for better sleep. It's on the freebies page under resources on my website. Go to episode number 116, and this will help you get ready and prepare yourself for this sleep challenge. I will also put the link to that download in the show notes. So there you go. That's lots of information on the importance of these self-care practices. If you want support, please join that discounted group, Daily Habits for a Holistic Health program, starting February 21st. In the meantime, join my free challenge, the free Early to Bed Challenge, February 3rd to February 9th. And let's really work in 2020 on getting these really good self-care practices in place so that we can feel good in ourselves and thrive, and also be there for others in our life. If you think this episode will be helpful to your family or friends, or you think they would like to join that free Early to Bed challenge, please share the episode with them. Take good care of yourself, be well, and ciao for now.